Hi, and welcome to SEO Questions. Each week we answer the questions asked on the SEO Questions community on Google+. With us tonight we have Daniel Nagraha, world's greatest programmer. Masataki Wasa is webmaster of wasaweb.net in the UK. He's also a Google top contributor on the AdSense and the Google Plus Help community. Jim Capper is CEO of onlineownership.com in the UK. He is a conversion rate optimization specialist and proud to call himself an SEO. If I can find the right button to click here, we can get started with our first question. And yeah, if I do that, that's it. Sorry about this. There we go. All right. First question tonight has been posted by Gene Urban, and he asks a question: if I create a custom Google map, will it get indexed from the map's title?
Okay, if he's created a custom Google map, well, firstly, the question is how, and what does he actually mean, a custom Google map? Did he create it in MapMaker, or did he use another bit of software that he uses on his contact page, etc.? And then, of course, if it's indexed, like, where is the map's title? Because normally to display a map, you know, it's in a I don't actually know.
Yeah. There is an API. Google has a Maps API. You can get a key for it, and well, it said that the video ended because of a server error here, but it's come back online, and I've still got the stop broadcast button, Masataki. I got a message, server error, and it said the video ended because of a server error. Please try again later. But it looks like we're back rolling. Dan, would you mind checking that we're still broadcasting on the YouTube event page, please? It's in the queue timer. This the first link in the queue timer. All right, getting back to Gene Urban's question. Yeah, you can get an API key and create maps on a page. On the community, I added that if he did get it to rank just for the title, then the question is, would he want it to has it really, the URL's changed? Are we broadcasting on YouTube, Dan? This is crazy. All right, look, let's move on from this one. You've got nothing to add to it anyway, Tim, have you? No. Okay. Oh, I know I shouldn't have said that Larry Page was a liar. If, uh, that's what it is. Anyway, here's a question from sorry, Julio Marquez. Julio said, "Hello, I have many links returning 404 page not found because I have moved a category in my site. Should I delete those links from the Google Webmaster Tools account as it could hurt my ranking, or should I just ignore them? Thank you."
404s won't hurt your rankings. What I would just make sure is that, you know, if these categories were moved, where did you move it to? And the old URLs should be 301 redirecting to where you have them now, if that's the case. If you just completely removed them, then fine, yeah, the 404s won't hurt you. But double check if there isn't anywhere you can send you know, the visitor to, rather than having them land on a 404. So if you incorporated it into the content into another category, you know, would it make sense to the user to land on that category? See if you can actually redirect them with 301s. But if you happen to have 5, 10, 15, 2,000 404s, 10,000 404s, no, because it won't hurt your rankings at all. But just remember to obviously craft a decent 404 page, so that if anyone does ever happen to come through to that 404, they at least can then navigate from that page to somewhere on the site that they're actually looking for.
Okay. Thank you, Tim. And Daniel tells me that we're still broadcasting, so we should be able to keep going. I hope that it is. All right, Masataki, did you want to add something to that?
No, I think Tim answered it very well.
Okay. Next, we've got one titled One Page Parallax. This one's beyond me. I hope you guys are clued up on this. He said, "I know there is a way to make a one-page parallax website SEO friendly, but I have serious doubts about it actually ranking in competitive terms. Does anyone actually have a one-page parallax that ranks on the first page of Google?" I don't have a page like that on any of our sites, but I've certainly seen them ranking. There's some great news sites that are built that way. Anybody else? It's going to be that night. Look, Justin Hong, I'm terribly sorry that we can't give you a better answer. I'll endeavour to find some information and send you some links. Devin Peterson has asked a number of questions of us. Devin said, "Will image location affect SEO?" He said, "I use one of my websites to host many images and video content, which are then sometimes used for my clients' web pages. Is there any SEO value to my own site in using the original URL path, which is to my site, to post the image on my client's website? I'm not trying to sneak links or anything, and would not do this without permission from the client, or if it would adversely affect them for any reason. To clarify, let's say I have an image URL path of mysite.com/image, and I need to post this image on my client site, clientsite.com. But I have two options: either upload the image onto their server, so now the image path becomes clientsite.com/image, or just use the source mysite.com/image right on the client's website. Are there any pros and cons to either method? I could expand this question to video URLs as well, and really any component of HTML that uses source equals, or URL like CSS. Thanks in advance. Hello, Alistair Lattimore. We're dying here. How you going, mate?
Not bad. How you going, everyone?
Yeah. The broadcast was interrupted. We're on question 4, Alistair. If please don't ask me to read it again. It was about 50 pages long.
Let me just scan the question. Hang on.
Tim has the flu. Masataki has somebody creating a quarry in the house next door to him.
So I would think that there would be some benefit, I guess. The client's website is linking to his website to host the image, so assuming the embedded the link to the image has got a followed anchor on it, effectively, like the image object is followed, I guess. I mean, you can't no follow an image, right? So I guess there would be benefits to that. I mean, this is one of the things that makes how Google ranks images, right? How often people embed images on other people's websites, and then how often they link to them, etc. The anchor text they use to link to them, the text on the page that surrounds the image, the alt text of the image, etc. All of these things are factors, I think, for Google in terms of how image search works. So it would seem reasonable to me that if he has a lot of images on his site and they're getting linked to heavily, that he would see quite a lot of data inside his Webmaster Tools account for image search, for instance. I don't think there's a downside to his client necessarily. As an example, I think this is no different to, let's say, maybe using a CDN. You can host your images on a CDN even if the CDN is not connected to your domain at all. Like, you don't have to be using cdn.myclient.com. You could be using Akamai, for instance, completely unrelated domain to your own domain, and Google doesn't care. They're far more interested in making sure that you use alt text on the images and talk about the images descriptively, etc., and their algorithms will pick that up more so than worrying about canonicalizing the image resource from the CDN back to your main website. I actually asked about this quite some time ago to find out whether or not the rel canonical tag, when used as an HTTP header, could be used for image resources yet. And Google came back and said no, it's not available yet for image resources. It's still only available for web documents, so HTML, PDFs, etc. Things that they consider to be part of web search. So given that you can't canonicalize the resource back to your main domain, Google's algorithms are more than capable of detecting that you're hosting the image on a third-party domain. Should be fine.
Sorry about that. I muted myself to sneeze and I forgot to put it back again. Thanks, Dal. Okay, let's move on to the next one. Devon, I see that you also got some great answers in the community on this one. All right, Athanasius Giannis has a question, footer links on e-commerce sites. He said, hi everyone. In an e-commerce site, the below sections in red should be no indexed. Thank you. Are you asking us or telling us, Athanasius? I'm going to guess that he's asking us.
So that's really subject to whether or not he would want that URL to rank or not, whether he no indexes it. If he's happy for those URLs to show up in web search, like if someone does your e-commerce site, like brand plus payment methods as a query, and you want that page to rank, which I can't see why you wouldn't, then you should have it indexed. If the content is something that you genuinely don't want indexed, and you don't want it to show up in web search, period, then no index it. I'm wondering here whether or not he may also be maybe referring to whether or not they should be no followed. As a related, let's say as a slight tangent then to that discussion. Broadly speaking, you probably shouldn't no follow those links either. So in years gone by, people used to apply no follow links internally within their own sites to sculpt page rank to their highly commercial pages. Years ago now, Google changed how they allocate page rank or equity to links that have got no follow on them, and the notion of page rank sculpting because of no followed links doesn't work now. So in essence now what would happen if you no followed internal links within your own website, whatever page rank or equity Google allocated to that link, when the no follow was applied, it just evaporates, so you lose it entirely. So internally within your own site, you shouldn't be no following links essentially, because any equity that's being allocated to them just vanishes.
Yep. Anybody else? Athanasius, I see you also got great answers on the SEO community on Google+, and I thank those that keep turning up week after week to answer these questions. Oh. Jai Prakash Yadav said, I am facing fake referrals in my analytics. I'm happy to see a lot of traffic in my site, but I realize it's a fake referral from Tim Kappa in Russia. So my question is, how to stop? Oh, sorry, I misread that. I was looking at Tim at the same time. Just a fake referral from Russia. Any reference to Tim Kappa, you should strike from your mind. Anyway, his question was how to stop this referral and what is the bad effect on my site. My site is deaninfotech.com. I'm also providing an analytic screenshot of the referral site. If that's too hard to see on the YouTube clip, you can see these images on the SEO Questions community on Google+. I wonder, how did you determine it was a fake referral? Sorry, I cut you out.
No, you're all right. I'm just looking at the image to see. Well, I suppose if you wanted to have a look at in terms of whether it was fake or not, you could, in Google Analytics, you can drill into, go into the referral website, scroll into the domain, and then you can see the actual web page that generated the referral. If you visited that web page, you should obviously see the link to your website on the page that generated the referral. If it's not there, then you could begin to think that it's probably a fake referral. There's also a lot of traffic that people have been seeing in Google Analytics from SEMMalt, or whatever it's called. And it's essentially bot traffic, or better word, showing up in analytics. Also fake and not really an actual user. So I guess there's things like that you could look at. In terms of the easiest way probably to get rid of it, you'd probably use a filter applied to Google Analytics to exclude the traffic that matches that domain, and then it won't ever make it into your account. I'd be, just as a word of warning, if you haven't used filters before, be cautious, because any traffic that you manipulate in a filter, like if you exclude the traffic, if you get it wrong, you can't get the traffic back. So the general rule of advice with this stuff is have your primary account for your website that has all traffic in it, create a sub-profile, and then apply the filter to the sub-profile. That way, if for some reason it goes wrong, or you want to be able to go back and look at the traffic of your website without any of the filters being applied, you can still go to the parent account, parent web profile, and see all of the traffic.
Well, that's good enough for me. I hope it is good enough for you too, Jai Prakash Yadav. Let's move on now to the next. It's a question from Ritu Ahuja, and she has lost all of her G+, Facebook likes, and tweet count. I wonder how. So I've migrated from my blogger domain name, Blogspot, to a custom domain name, .com. After doing that, I have lost all of my G+, Facebook likes, and tweet count. Is there any way to retrieve that? I would appreciate any help, but thanks.
The Google +1 numbers have migrated on 2 occasions for me. So, but I'm not so sure whether that's the expected behavior or not. Facebook's gone and Twitter's gone. You could theoretically specify the old blogspot.com address as in the share buttons, and thereby keep the numbers. But I think that's probably not a viable long-term strategy. So I think you have to reckon with losing the numbers, essentially, when you do move from one domain to another. So in this case, from .blogspot.com to a custom domain.
Yeah. Okay, anybody else on this one? I see David Harry jumped in and answered this question as well. Right, let's move on to the next. It's from David Jones regarding new warnings from Google regarding mobile usability for sites. He said, I've been reading about the new warnings from Google regarding mobile usability. Right now, I have no direct warnings from Google in Google Webmaster Tools about my sites, but decided to check some that I have deployed, where I have deployed a new responsive theme with the mobile usability tool. I have this new theme on 4 sites, and 3 have no or very few warnings, less than 10 out of thousands of pages, but one site, forever.geek.com, it says that I have 1,296 pages with problems with content not sized to viewport and touch elements too close. The former part definitely is not true, as this theme was built with mobile in mind and works perfectly on mobile and tablets and is fully responsive. I also tested some of these pages that Google said were a problem using their own Page Insights tool, and they all got 99 out of 100 scores for user experience. However, they also got very poor scores of less than 50 out of 100 for page speed issues. But this has nothing to do with the 2 warnings given in Google Webmaster Tools for mobile usability. I'm going to try and improve the page load times, but what should I do about the other warnings regarding content size for viewports and touch elements? I don't see how I can improve things anymore on this site in question. Also, there are 3 other sites all running the exact same theme, but when I tested these for mobile usability, Google said only a handful of pages had problems, or they were all fine. David Jones also lists some URLs, socialnewsdaily.com, dailymind.com, and celebrific.com. Well, guys, what's your comments here?
The first thing I'm thinking of is that on the site that's got some of the problems, he may have inadvertently blocked CSS or JavaScript using robots.txt. And that's meaning that when the smartphone bot comes along to crawl the site, it can't fetch the resources and it throws back the warnings. Because then when it goes to assess the layout of the page, the layout is effectively broken for the Googlebot smartphone. That's one thing I would check.
Okay, anybody else? I see we've just been joined by David Harry. David, you all know from the SEO Training Dojo, and also he works for Verve Developments. Since last century, David.
I didn't catch this question, so I'm not sure. I'm reading it now.
Yeah. No problem. Well, let me switch from our questions. David Jones, I hope what we've given you so far is what you're looking for. Let me just quickly find on our panelists report this news article I wanted to jump to. Sorry.
But just quickly on the question, Jim.
Yeah.
I'm pretty much sure that what I suggested is going to be the problem. So, looking at the robots.txt file on forevergeek.com, he's blocking WP content /themes which is going to hold the CSS and JavaScript for the theme that he's running on his website. If you have a look at the robots.txt on Social News Daily, The Daily Mind, and Celebrific, each of those websites only blocks WP admin, whereas his Forever Geek one has got a lot more other things being blocked, one of them being the themes folder, which will definitely cause problems with this.
Okay.
Well, you know, isn't the standard advice right now that not to block JavaScript and all that stuff because of the way they're doing a DOM level kind of rendering at Google, right? So,
Yep, 100%.
yeah. So these days, you know, CSS, JavaScript, all that, do not block it as far as, you know, the advice of the day goes. So, yeah. And I guess Webmaster Tools, you can also do the render. You know what I mean? Fetch this Googlebot and get the full render and see what that's doing too.
Yep, that's right. The thing that you should probably take into account with this as well is if he uses any of the page speed tools, like for instance, let's say he goes and uses Google PageSpeed Insights to test his website, it will give him back information from an analysis standpoint about the performance metrics of his site and also the usability components of the site in terms of targets and things like that. The important thing to remember, though, is that the PageSpeed Insights from Google, it doesn't honor the robots.txt stuff, I don't think. It will fetch the resources regardless because the user agent of the PageSpeed index bot isn't Googlebot, for instance. So I think it will just...
No, I bet you that's probably definitely the case because, yeah, they're rendering the page. They're not crawling for indexing. So.
Yeah, so I think you'll find that if you remove the robots.txt reference in Forever Geek for the WP content themes, this problem will go away. It might take 2 or 3 weeks for it to go away after Google recrawls the website, you know, updates all of its metrics, etc. But I think that will fix the issue.
Okay, Alistair, read that note in the chat. We'll have that link on next week. Okay, let me jump to an item from our news section. This was an article.
Ray Hoffman's blog. Yeah. Who's a guest post?
Sorry, David, go ahead.
Oh, I said that's over at Ray Hoffman's blog. Yep. It was an interesting blog.
It was. It was one of the most savage takedowns I've seen in a while. But anyway, I was late to this because I don't follow Josh, but the things that stood out to me was that Josh's claim that penguin can be cured in 3 days. My concern is that people will read that and believe it. They'll get in touch with Josh, pay their money, and find that penguin can't be cured in 3 days.
I think it also speaks. Part of the drama around this also speaks to the fact that it happened on the Moz. You know, I mean, if this happens on some no-name blog, I don't think anyone cares. So I think part of the debate that's gone on around it as well is the fact that, you know, what is the responsibility of places like the Moz, Search Engine Land, and what they publish? Because, you know, as most of us in this room know, that we will get clients coming to us going, you know, oh, I read this on Search Engine Land, or I saw this on the Moz, and you get those emails, and now you got to spend an hour dispelling it. So I think where it happened is part of the problem. So.
Yeah. Yeah, that's another thing, isn't it? I mean, Moz has credibility, and it lends credibility. I mean, Josh is just not posting there. He's done 2 Whiteboard Fridays, and you know, I think some of his claims are outrageous, but I think they're just designed to attract attention and attract clients at all costs.
Yeah, but this maybe, huh?
The other thing that he said that I thought was ridiculous, he said that he does 300 site audits a year.
Yeah, we also, our group, we're talking about that too, because, what's that, boys? Like, that's more than one a day if you take holidays out of the equation, right? So, yeah, that sounds like push button audits to me. I don't know. A full-on audit for me, like a comprehensive one, probably takes a week. So I have no idea how he's doing.
I mean, Tim Capper does him in his sleep, apparently.
Tim, that's a talent, buddy.
No, mate.
Can you share the secret there, man?
Yeah, it's.
Wow,
it's,
if I could work it when I'm sleeping, dude.
It's called Jim Monroe taking the piss.
But yeah, I think that's a bit of a crazy number, and that speaks to credibility, I guess, for some of us as well. But again, yeah, his whole disavow thing was based off a whopping 12 sites, and from what I gather, talking to Josh, these weren't even client sites per se. I get the sense that he had talked to people who had claims of recovery with, and so he asked them to contact him, and he, meaning I don't know even how much of the data he had access to, or how much of his involvement in these situations of these 12 sites is. So the first thing that's obvious is that 12 sites isn't much of a data set, is it? So I don't know how you can make a claim off of 12 sites. And the claim is essentially that, what is it, that disavow alone is not going to fix your penguin problem. I think at the end of the day, as someone who does a lot of forensic stuff, you got to be talking apples to apples here. He's not providing, nor has he been willing to provide the actual data in the domains and everything behind all this. So you can't cross-reference any of this research, or if you want to call it that, which is a bit of an issue, because again, if you've got a site with 200 links and Google thinks you've got 50 crappy ones, and you disavow 50 and you start building some good ones, it's entirely possible that this is going to, you'll be able to do it. If you've got thousands upon thousands of cruddy links and you're not trying to remove some, again, there is the potential that the disavow alone on its own isn't going to work. But you can't definitively say that it's useless, it's garbage, just based on 12 limited sites and us not even knowing the size of link profiles or how much dirt was in them, et cetera, on and on. It's just crazy. He can make those statements, but I think that's really what some of the hullabaloo is about. Then after that, he was kind of getting, worked up in the comments with some people, and I think that's why it got more attention. But at the end of the day, I don't think anyone should be ignoring the disavow tool, regardless. Like, even proactively, meaning if you're noticing crappy links come in and there hasn't been a penguin roll and you haven't got a manual penalty, I'm still a believer in proactive disavow as far as, staying on top of that. When I talked to someone at Google last year on the web spam team, they said, that essentially if you ever did get in a position where you've tripped a threshold for a manual penalty, Google your reviewer would actually take into account that you've had diligence over the last year with your disavow and things like that. So regardless if it's a straight up penguin thing, there are still reasons to be using it, and most certainly it does play a role in manual reconsideration requests, things of that nature. It's certainly something I would not be, throwing in the garbage. So I don't for a second believe any of this, ignore the disavow stuff regardless of the situation. Penguin, manual, whatever, even proactive. I still think it's something people should keep in their toolbox and not ignore.
Yeah. Yeah. How about you, Alistair? I suppose now that you're a big wheel at Expedia, do they get you doing 300 audits a year on your salary? What would that be? About $1,000 each, would it be, if you did 300 a year?
Yeah, you bet. No, not doing 300 audits a year. Sorry. The sites are a little big for that. But regarding the video and stuff, I just think that it's weird. I mean, everyone else that I've read about that says if you just blatantly submit a disavow file on its own and do nothing else, it will do nothing. Google have come out and said that if you submit it on its own, and do nothing else equal do nothing, and that you need to essentially begin to tear down the garbage links that got you in the penalty in the first place before the disavow will take effect, or something to that effect.
Yeah, but there is a spectrum of the negative SEO stuff. Again, I got a guy last year that I ended up having to talk to Google directly about this because he's got 1.5 million links. You're talking a considerable sized profile. Out of nowhere pops up, I'd say about 25 to 35,000 links over the course of a month. Industrial strength spam. This wasn't even Fiverr, XRummer stuff. You know, I mean, I talked to spammers I know and have them look at the situation. Even they were like, "This is industrial." I could name the tool, but obviously I'm not because I don't want to encourage that kind of stuff. But it was an industrial attack. Okay, so now you've got splogs and unmaintained sites and crap where this people have managed to put all these links. You're not getting them taken down. And again, my point with Google was, why should I even bother? Because this is going to cost this guy. The monitoring alone, okay, with your link tools and stuff like that to identify these on a monthly ongoing basis in the future would cost this guy upwards of $500 a month. That was link risk, Dom Hodgson and the gang. Then my staff's time would probably be $1,000. So you're talking in the neighborhood of 15 grand a year just for these people to monitor for crappy negative SEO attacks, which is unreasonable to me, so I didn't believe in that. But in a situation like that, you know, the disavow's an option because you didn't build them. You know what I mean? And they're in such crappy locales and unmaintained sites that, you know, again, this got to fall back on Google at some point for them to deal with it, not to have, you know, me and my clients having to deal with links they didn't create. So again, that kind of situation, like I say, even talking to Googlers, they said, you know, yeah, you know, and that's Matt I was talking to. You know, he's like, you know, go and do that disavow, be proactive with it, let us know. Because there is situations that can happen where you didn't create the links. How are you going to get them taken down? You know what I mean? In Google, you can't always take anything Mueller or anybody says as barefaced because on the one hand, they're saying what you just said, which is, yeah, you got to get some taken down. But on the other hand, they've also told us if someone tries to charge you for it, don't worry about it, just put it in the disavow. So which is it, Google? You know what I mean? It's like, you know, you get conflicting statements out of them.
Yeah.
Well, I was just about to say the same thing. I mean, their stance on this has changed, you know, quite a bit over time. I don't know what the most recent one is. I don't keep up with it these days, but, you know, they definitely have said it in the past that, like you just said, David, don't worry about taking them down. It'll sort itself out. Just disavow them proactively. Others, they've said if you just disavow and do nothing, it won't get you out. You know, so it's a bit of a mixed bag, I think, on...
Well, I bet you the truth lies in the middle somewhere. That, yes, the disavow probably would be enough, but Google mantra says that we got to try and encourage people to take them down. So, you know, the truth's probably in the middle somewhere.
Yeah,
you might find a sliding scale on this too. Sorry, Tim. That their algorithms can detect, you know, what they would consider to be close to pure spam, and, you know, things like XRummer and whatnot, and just coming up and putting them into a disavow when their systems are already detecting them as being, you know, blatant spam or close enough to blatant spam, that will suffice if you've got a low percentage of these links coming into your site. But if you keep pounding a site, let's say that you don't have 1.5 million links, for instance, and you've got a much smaller website that's got 500 links or 250 links. If you keep pounding that website with crap links, where you've got 3 or 4 to 1 ratio, for instance, of bad links to good, invariably you're going to get hit by Penguin. And in that scenario, I don't think that proactively disavowing or retroactively disavowing is going to help if you don't take the links down as well. There's just so few and far between people who are recovering from Penguin in general, and I think that of the people that are recovering from Penguin, you know, you tend to only hear about the bigger stuff. Sometimes you hear about the small stuff, but the people that are doing it on a larger scale, invariably they end up having to take links down. So
I think even to protect against a future manual action, it's a smart idea anyways.
Yeah,
you know
definitely.
I mean? Because, you know, what disavow is just, the Penguin is just the baby brother of the manual action, so you're already on the road.
Yeah, I mean, I was, I had a chat with the guys from Money Supermarket a couple months back, and they've got a team of 4 now solely on checking links. every Monday morning. They basically download.
Who's running that now, Ben? Is it still Ben or Ben McKay? Because I know Hamlet was, and then he left, and then I think Ben McKay started up over there.
Yeah. No, this guy I was talking to is George Stophanoulis, if I pronounced that correctly. But he was saying that they've got a team of 4. Every Monday, they basically download all the links from that appeared over the previous 7 day, and then the team of 4 basically works their way through manually checking every single. Obviously, you can use a lot. Sometimes you can just visually see, okay, this is not great, but they actually physically check pretty much every page. So, because the problem they've got is you'll have a lot of people who will say, "Oh, I saw a great credit card deal over a Money Supermarket," and and it's just the way that they've linked to it. Although great, it all depends what forum that came from, who said it. Do you know what I mean? And so there's a whole load that they have to take into consideration, and literally. They started out with 2 chaps, and now they've got 4. And literally each week they go through them, disavow, contact them. They even go as far as saying, "Look, contacting. Would you mind just changing that anchor text? Would you mind just saying Money Supermarket, or would you mind, just actually removing that?" I mean, the reason they're so proactive about it is when their credit card section got hit by Penguin. In 2012, in the 6 months it took them to recover the credit card part, they lost upwards of $1 million in revenue.
Well, that's it. You can't afford not to in some cases, and this isn't Panda that runs once a month. This is like what, once a year?
Yeah. So at the time,
it is a problem.
Yeah. So at the time, they really said, right, you know what? We're taking this seriously, regardless of what's coming out. And we're going to handle these from now on a weekly basis, which, fair play. But the expense, you've got 4 salaries there just on your links.
Which, of course, comes all the way back to the fact that Google costs people a lot of money with these things. When I'm sorry, I love Matt and everything else. Well, he's not even there anymore, so who cares? But, if you just devalue the links, you can eventually, because their stance was always that they wanted to get a message across to webmasters that, the whole penalty approach is to make sure they got their attention. And my supposition with them was always that, SEOs are kind of smart. How do you think they figured out anchor text and everything else? Because it worked. If you make some general posts about blog, don't do guest blogging anymore. If you make some guideline changes, and SEO stops seeing things working, they'll get the message just as easily. The problem is you're punishing small business owners and people like that for picking the wrong maybe SEO provider or something of that nature by doing the penalty route, and you're costing people money and jobs. And I just always had a problem with that. Just devalue those links. End of the day, boom, done. You know what? The industry will catch on eventually. Okay, this isn't working. That's not working. Let's not do that. By penalizing, you're actually, you're not really changing the SEOs, because the crappy SEO, snake oil salesmen are still going to be out selling that crappy product. That's not going to change, because you're not penalizing them. You're penalizing their clients, or the people that hire them, the small business owners, the large whatever. That's who you're hurting. So, I've always still had a problem with that.
For sure. I mean, if you look at the percentage of people that actually, even 1, are aware of Google has guidelines, 2, have actually been hit by a penalty, and you base a fact on the amount of, and I know this is not scientific by any means, but you base a fact on the amount of spam, I will get you to Google, here's my package emails that I get on a daily basis. They haven't slowed down. This is just, then you're not getting through to the mass. It's the amount of people that have actually been affected by this and things like that is just negligible compared to the amount of site owners out there. It's just, they're not going to win. They're not going to win by doing it this way.
I wrote about this a while ago, about Google ignoring manipulative links, because just like David was saying before, it seems like they should just ignore the manipulative links and get on with it. That way they get what they want, which is the things that rank, and the spammers don't get what they want because they just ignore the shit links, and it seems as though it's a win-win situation, right? The incentive for spammers to spam isn't there because the spam links don't work, essentially. The thing is, though, is that they played this game when they introduced rel nofollow. Now, I don't know if you guys recall this well enough, but when they introduced nofollow originally, what was it for? It was to put on spam on comments on websites so that you could tell Google proactively that you don't vouch for the link to the comment of author's website. Essentially, the links that you vouch for, leave them alone. If there's links on your website that you don't vouch for because they're by user-contributed links, for instance, add a rel nofollow. Now, the intention of that was, if I take away the incentive for the spammers for comment spamming, that comment spamming will go down because there's no value in it, right? Now, I don't know if anyone keeps track of the amount of spam that that Akismet goes through, because they used to publish, I think they still do, statistics on how much spam they are processing every day. That graph is going high and to the right. Essentially, at no time in the last 10 years has that line come down. It just keeps marching on, high and to the right. Now, huge percentages of the web now are running on WordPress. Virtually every blog these days is going to run on it. All of the themes will run nofollow by default pretty much across the board for spam comments or just comments in general. So the idea that removing the reward is going to be sufficient to change the output of this isn't a good enough deterrent for Google to do that again, right? That's my opinion. Then the other part of this is that spammers are going to spam, regardless of what you do. They are just going to spam on because that's what they do, right? They want to spend as little money as they can and see if they can make cash. So regardless of what Google do, they're just going to charge on. So they might as well come up and send a message out to everyone else that if you spam and try and manipulate us, be forewarned, we've got a stick and we're going to beat you with it if you press us too hard. And at the end of the day, the only people that are listening to what Google are saying, broadly speaking, are the people that they want to know about how they want them to act. And they're telling people, essentially, don't manipulate us or we're going to hit you, pretty much. We've got a stick and we're going to give you a good flogging for it. Because they don't want to be manipulated. You know, you have to remember as well, right, that, you know, things like Penguin aren't just targeting spam in a sense that it's bad links from bad quality websites. They're targeting bad links from good quality websites. So things like commercial anchor text, even from a good website, could be counted as essentially a spammy link according to Google's algorithms. So the message to webmasters and SEO agencies, etc., is, by all means, spam it up, chums. But at some point, if you fall foul of us, we're going to take our bat and ball, and we're going to go and play with someone else, and you'll be left playing cricket on your own. That's not a lot of fun.
Yeah, it's just unfortunate it runs once a year. You know what I mean? If they got it down to monthly like Panda, at least there's some sort of recourse for people to try and correct things. You know, again, when I get pulled into a situation, it's far too late. And, you know, here we are, it's June 2014, and it's like, well, we can fix this, but you've got 6 months to wait.
Well, I don't understand, you know, how the fact that Bing managed to sort out the crap. Like, you look at any of these payday loan kind of, I mean, the other day I was looking at Camagra, which is the new, you know, the new kind of buzz thing out there. Google's results for Comagra, you know, you've got a couple of hijacked pages in there, and you know, Bing manages to not show any of that. So there's a disconnect somewhere, you know.
Give me an example of a query, Tim.
Okay, well, the one I'm just looking at is Comagra. I'll type it in. It's
screen share, man, and everyone can see.
Yeah. Right. So let's.
This is Google Plus. There we go. We got all the fancy tools, man.
Oh, I've got to find the bloody screen I was sharing now. So this is certainly cleaned up a lot now. This was totally overrun the other day, but we've still got some poor bloke over here. Loch Lomond. What he is he actually it's fish, Scottish salmon, which has been hijacked there. But and then obviously as you go to page 2 and 3, it's always popping up. But you nip over to Bing. Has my screen share followed?
Yep.
Yeah. And here we are. I don't know where my little this did have a little knowledge panel showing up a second ago, but here we don't have any hijacked ones. These are all, well, I mean, I wouldn't say legitimate, but they are all sites dedicated just to selling the pills. We haven't got any hijacked or you know, dodgy spam there. And payday loans is another one. I mean, that although they specifically said they brought out a you know, something to deal with payday loans, well, the minute you hit page 2, page 3, they're all still sitting there waiting, and they sneak in once a week. You know, these guys are doing it on such an industrial scale. It's unbelievable.
It's because there's nobody legit in that space.
They aren't, man. They are terrible. They're terrible.
I know some people that work in it, let's say. So yeah, it's an interesting space.
You know, we got the.
There are instances where Google has algorithms that just run on, say, like the top 30 results or X number of results. So, you know, that kind of stuff. You know, as it migrates to page 2 and so on, they will hopefully catch a little better. You know, but like you're saying, they just got to hammer it, bounce back down, hammer it down. You know.
Yeah.
It's kind of why I laughed about Penguin all the time, because, you know, if everyone, all the spammers know that it's going to be somewhere in October, they can just spam their asses off and disavow, October 1, disavow everything, take them all down, and then as soon as Penguin runs again, go back to business. You know?
I don't know who wrote the article, and I haven't seen any other follow-ups of people saying they successfully did it. But if you want to, one of the theories about getting out of Penguin would be so you've got your domain A, then you buy a new domain B, and then you buy a domain C, and you obviously you don't put your site content onto B, you put your site content onto C, but you 301 all the your entire domain to domain B. Then at domain B, you disavow all the crap, and then your actual content and everything then doesn't go onto B, but it goes onto C. So you know how Penguin has had the tendency to follow if somebody just bought you know, got a new domain and they just switched all the content. How Google managed to pick up that, this is the same content, you haven't changed it, you were the dodgy bloke, and all of a sudden that new content seemed to be hit with a manual penalty. So what this does is you're kind of cutting the disavow in the middle, you're cutting it off, but you don't have the content actually loaded onto that site, and then A goes to C, and that's where your content goes. So theoretically it's a clean site, and then there's your new content. And you know, I don't see how I haven't seen any they gave some examples, but I haven't seen anyone saying, right, well, we used this method and it actually worked. The penalty never followed us across the two domains.
Yeah, but if you're building a brand or have a brand of any, worth, that's not really an option. That sounds more like a spammer trying to get around it with some more spam.
It was who's that black hat guy that publishes? God, what's his bloody name? Anyway, it'll come to me. I'll just check. But it was for main affiliate kind of sites, your money site. If it got hit, you're not going to recover totally, but this is a way to kind of recover some of your lost traffic. You won't recover totally, but this is a way that he had managed to recover a fair bit of his money site.
Right, and again, what happened to him after the next penguin, and what's going to happen to him after the one after that? It's.
It will eventually follow you. I do believe, with this machine learning that's going on, it will follow you. It will find you ultimately. There's no hiding.
Well, and that's it. But what is recovery at the end of the day? It's fairly simple. I don't care if it's Penguin or if it's a manual action for natural links. Recovery is not Google giving you that equity back. It doesn't make sense. They're not, again, just like the disavow, they're not going to trust us to tell them how to use the link graph or how to value or pass equity through the link graph. So, to my mind, a lot of this always comes back to a trust scoring of some kind. That that your trust score has been, hit by a dampener to X degree, and let's say Google thinks you have 1,000 crappy links, you disavow 500. They're going to give you a 0.5 trust score back. I'm simplifying it, but you know what I mean, because you've only caught half of the crappy links that they believe you have. They're only going to give you half that trust scoring, dampener reduction, because that's recovery at the end of the day is it can't be the links themselves or any equity they're passing. It's got to be some sort of trust scoring, and of course, if you're if you're attracting new quality links, that's going to obviously help as well. And even John Mueller said that a couple of weeks ago, that if you're also building quality links, that's going to play in. Meaning which means it's not a scoring dampener fully across the board, that at some point that dampener can be outweighed by positive links. And again, depending on scale. If you've only got 100 crappy links and you attract 200 good ones, that's going to help move the threshold and move the needle at them.
Yeah. I mean, there is no. You might get released out of a penalty. You might get that lovely email saying, yeah, fine, you've done enough. But it takes the same amount of time, if not double that, to actually build that trust back up. You don't pop back up where you were. I mean, in some cases, in some points you do, but I mean.
For the most part, no, you're never going to get back to where you were. End of story.
There's a little, like you said, there's a little tick there, which is, even if you, let's say you regained as many great links coming back to the site that what you got rid of in the first place of crappy links, there's still that little tick next to your name that you need to prove over X amount of time, and we don't know what that is. And depending on how bad you were and how long over, I do believe that there's a little tick there, which says, right, this guy's got a a probationary period for the next 2 years next to him. If he's good, then we'll start releasing that trust back to him. I kind of get that.
I would fully believe that. Again, talking to Matt and stuff over the years, can't tell you that every time he'll cite stuff from 07, 06. I'll show him the site, and he's like, well, these guys were doing this and that back in 07. I'm like, holy crap. They got a memory on them. For sure, man.
Yeah. I've really, there's a little probationary tick next to your name, and they give you a date, get out of jail. Then you got to go through probation, and definitely. There's something there.
Yeah, I wouldn't doubt that at all. Anyways, Jim, I think we beat up on the disavow enough. If you got more stupid questions for us.
Yeah, Jim, you still there?
Okay. I've just been trying to work out, Tim, how you came to be searching for Camagro. Because isn't that another name for Viagra?
Yeah, Viagra, mate. No, it's, you know, me and my spam queries. I just, you know, every now and again I like to have a look what's going on, who's ripping who off.
But you don't buy online, I take it.
No, mate, I don't buy online. I've got my own personal pusher.
All right. Let me try and find the right button to click here. Let's go back to question 9, which we split from to answer that news item. This is from Niraj Kumar, who asks a question on domain name and ranking. He says, I have a very simple question. I have to rank well for ESOP, E-S-O-P software on Google. Should I have a domain like ESOP-software.biz, or is it okay to make a new page on an existing website, such as xyz.com/ESOP software?
Yeah, well, depends if XYZ is related in any way. You know what I mean? Is if it's a totally unrelated topic or not, you know, a fringe topic. I, in most cases, would rather have a targeted domain. As far as biz domains go, I would avoid those like the plague. They're highly known for spam, and I even have, again, talked to Googlers that tell me that, yeah, they have a special thing for .biz domains that, you know, that's why you don't see a hell of a lot of them ranking. So they are an issue. I would never use a .biz or .info. Always an issue because, again, Google has their own set of stuff to look at with those because they do not trust them. You know what I mean? But again, as far as whatever the domain is, .com or .co.uk or whatever, again, is XYZ an authority site that can pass equity to this page? B, are you going to need more than a page because obviously you're selling a product? C, is that XYZ domain related closely to that software? If not, then you probably want another domain. I mean, I tend to be one who prefer a standalone domain, you know, myself. Tim?
Yeah.
Yeah, I think in this one, it's. I think also it's a little bit about the business. I mean, we don't really know what you're doing. Is this XYZ domain, do they have a whole product range? Are you building a brand? Are you building a business? If that's the case, then I would obviously have, you know, your brand with, you know, your /ESOP software, and then obviously build your ESOP software landing page with all its bits and bobs in it there to create a great, you know, category. If this is only for ESOP software, that is it, there's nothing else to do with it, then I would try and look for that domain, you know, or something related in that domain wise. And like David said, yeah, just stay away from biz. But yeah, try and find something in there. But I think you need to question yourself on what is the business, what is the site, is it for a long term, is it a brandable, is it going to be a, and then that may or may not give you the decision whether you want to go for just the one domain or do you want to, you know, have the category page on there also.
Okay. All right. Let's move on to the next, and it's all right. It's Mohammed Umar Gufran asks, how to use Reddit to get huge traffic. Please give me any tricks. I don't know if anybody else will, Mohammed, but if I knew of the trick, I would be there.
Yeah, I think the answers to the question. The answers to the question, though. Any kind of tricks will get you roasted by those guys. The Reddit crowd have seen it all, and you know, that kind of approach of trying to game it, it probably would blow up in your face before it would do anything beneficial. So, like any kind of, you know, any kind of reach that you're trying to get, you got to do it legitimate. You got to put your time in. You know what I mean? Become an expert and respected in the community. I think in any community, trying to go out there and just, you know, spam it, because that's what tricks implies. you know, any kind of social community like that, it could blow up in your face. You know, I'm not so sure I would take any approach. I think there's no advice for me, at least, other than doing it legit and building it up over time and building a following. Or, of course, I guess, if there are people in your niche or market that are already doing well-respected members over there, you might want to reach out to them or something. You know, you could take that approach, but as far as, you know, trying to game it in any way, I think that's risky.
Yeah,
Yeah,
very savvy people on Reddit.
Oh yeah, and also, you know, some things don't really work well, sort of with Reddit. I think if you want to explore whether your content would be interesting on Reddit, do yourself a favor, maybe do a little bit of Reddit ads. That will tell you whether they find it interesting or not. If they find your kind of content interesting, well, then that's great. And then you need to go and, like David said, you've got to get in there. You've got to interact. You've got to post your questions, your answers. You've got to, you know, offer advice, your thoughts. You've really got to. But if you, the first thing is, if you think it's worth your while in terms of your content, run a bit of ads on Reddit. That will certainly let you know whether Reddit community wants to read it or not. That will give you an idea, because Reddit isn't for every bit of everything. You know, some things they are really, you know, really active on, and other bits of it, you know, not so great. You want to look at some other kind of community, or something else that has better, you know, potential to drive traffic. Yeah, that's my thoughts.
Yep. Okay, I'm going to call that an answer for Mohammed. And here's another question from Ritu Ahuja, asking a question about migration from a Blogger URL to a custom domain. Ritu said, "Hi everyone, I have migrated from the Blogger URL to custom domain. Do I have to make any changes in AdSense and Google Analytics? I've noticed that in Google Analytics, the view count is great, but in AdSense, it's very low today after migration, and it has affected my earnings drastically." So Masataki was added an answer to our community there.
Yeah, as far as AdSense is concerned, if you have a hosted account on Blogger, then you need to upgrade it to a full AdSense account when you migrate to a custom domain.
Okay. Let's call that one answered. And the next is from Edisham Shaikh. And the same page is shown in the SERP with two different titles. So when I search for two queries, the same page of a competitor appears with two different titles. Why is this happening? When and how does this happen?
What's he actually trying to say?
Yeah, it would help if we had the query, but I think what he might be referring to, Tim, is how Google occasionally will decide to change the title for you.
Yeah.
In SERP, I think, you know, without the actual query, it's hard to say, but I'm guessing that's what he's seeing.
Yeah, if Google doesn't feel that your title best accurately fits your page for that specific
for the query, for that query, yeah,
for that exactly. Search query, then they change the title, which they think would be better. So, yeah.
Yeah, I think that's all he's actually seeing. Again, without the query, it's hard to say, but it sounds like that's what it is. And yeah, that'll happen. You know, you'll see it for your own pages, for your clients, your site. You'll see, wait a minute, that's not my title tags.
Yeah.
Google doesn't care.
From the answers from the SEO Questions community, I see that the keywords he was talking about were list your property, and the other one was post your property. Anyway.
Yeah. Again, without the actual domain we're looking at, it's hard to say. You know.
Okay.
But yeah, well, again, list your property and post your property. That's a semantic, you know, almost identical to Google, I'd imagine these days.
Athanasius Giannis asks, hi everyone. Within Google Webmaster Tools under crawl areas, many areas like these appear. I've installed a sitemap module on my site, which seems to be working fine. The below snapshot is the linked from. Why are these areas appearing? Thanks everyone. If you're watching this from home, you can go to the SEO Questions community on Google Plus, where you'll see a larger image than what's showing on the screen.
Yeah. What's the error that Google's spitting back?
Sorry, David.
What's the error that it's spitting back? I don't have the actual.
Well, I'm trying to see it on the image that he's given, but it doesn't seem to show. Well, it's got a number highlighted in that image, but no, I'm no help.
All right, hold on. Yeah, I found it here. Hold on. Okay, so link from. Yeah, that's
Athanasius, can I ask you to?
Isn't it?
Yeah, go ahead.
This is a 404 error he's talking about. I'm assuming it looks like. Yeah.
Look, I don't know.
Yeah, it seems to be he's looking at the error details for not, because if you look at the top of his picture, it says not found. So I'm thinking it's a 404 error that he's looking at. So what he's saying, what that error is actually telling you is that you are linking to something from that page, but they can't find it. So I don't know if that's the sitemap thing. And actually, in this question, in this case there, Tim, it's an image. So yeah, I don't understand how this would be in crawl. You know what I mean? How? Looks like he's got an image 404, so I don't think that's even a big deal. Like you were saying earlier, Tim, I don't think 404s in general are a huge issue.
Yeah, I mean, what I think is, so he's got the 404 in that top URL for drummers bikes / 3643. Then it's linked from within the sitemap, which is then showing the problem in the image file. So I think what he needs to do is to find that image file and to see where that's located. It's a
link around it as well. If you see at the bottom, there's a close URL thing, so I think it's got a link wrapped around it. We can't see in the code he's posted.
Yeah.
So I think check that URL that it's linking to. So I don't even think we've got the right screenshot there to be able to tell. Yeah. I'm betting that image is wrapped in a link to somewhere, and that's why it's saying link to.
Yeah. Just try and Athanasios, just follow it through. You need to just follow each little page through and really kind of dig into it and find where you've just kind of creating that 404 on that.
Okay. Moving right along to the next step from David Max on an article index but not displayed in search engine result pages. David said, hi everyone, I am David Max and I have some issues about indexing articles. I am running a blog for the past 3 years and receiving good results from Google, but in the last 20 days I've published 10 plus articles, and each and every article has been indexed by Google, but Google doesn't show the article on a search engine results page. Even when I search for the article's title using exact match. He gives an example. I'll hope that there's more coming. He said, but I didn't see my web page URL. Instead of this, Google is showing a third-party URL where I've shared my article for promotion purposes. That might be a clue.
Yeah.
Does my blog is my blog penalised by Google or something else? Please give your feedback. I have checked Google Webmaster Tools, but I don't find any message regarding penalties. My blog is, and I'll read it out, blogs.perceptionsystem.com. He said, I need help I need your help to find a solution. Waiting for a positive response. Well, good luck with that plan, David. Let me know how it goes. Thanks and regards, David Max.
Yeah, I would probably do that same exact match on a site search. You know what I mean? Site : your domain. You know, start with that. See if it's coming up even there. Exact matches on it like that can be, you know, if it's not coming up, there could be a sign that you have some issues somewhere as far as, you know, Panda, Penguin, or something that's not a manual action. So, you know, you're not always going to know out of the gate if you've got any kind of dampener. And I guess third is, yeah, you got to be careful with distribution as far as Facebook, and I'm assuming places like that where he's dropped it, because they can eat your lunch pretty quick. You know, that's always been a bit of a problem with Google, I think, anyways. So, you know, I've talked to guys over there, and, you know, I was like, well, you know, my RSS feed's picked up all over the place, you know, and then like a HuffPo picks up something, all of a sudden I'm getting outranked for my own content. The only answer they had at the time, Tim, was, well, maybe could you find a way to delay your RSS feed by half an hour and then ping so that we index yours first? I was like, really? That's your answer? Okay. Yeah. So, yeah, I don't know. Again, he could have, you know, but we don't, you know, I haven't dug into the blog. You know, how strong is this blog? You know, what kind of equity does it already have? But, you know, exact match not showing up like that, yeah. You know, I think that could be a sign of some deeper issues to look into. Tim, your take?
Yep. Okay.
I certainly wouldn't be you know, marketing out it, you know, until, yeah. I mean, I've done some query thing, like for example, your latest article, you know, that has been indexed 4 hours ago. So, you know, but of course, when I do exact match search, I mean, there's a lot of other places showing your content before even yours. So this, yeah, I think you need to, without diving into your site, I do think there might have or be some issues on the way you've structured it, really. I would probably not market out your next article just to see how things are working, really. But I do think you've got some little structural issues there. Yeah. Sorry, I'm just having a little, you know, dig through some of these in the site.
What's the domain? You want to throw it in the chat for me, Tim?
Oh, yeah.
In the SEO Questions group here.
Yeah. Just one sec. I'm just copying that. Just on a totally separate thing, I would probably reduce your font size slightly. It's almost like shouting at me, but that's just from an aesthetic thing.
Yeah, he doesn't, you know, he doesn't have a ton of equity either.
Your stuff is, you know, it's being indexed.
Yeah, well, Yeah, Majestic's showing the core domain has like 161,000 links, so that's curious. It should have enough equity if it's properly passed. Main blog page only has about 1,000, but he still has enough juice that probably shouldn't be happening. Let me try his latest article, see what happens.
And people seem to be enjoying it. You get a lot of social mentions and stuff on your on your pages. People seem to really enjoy your stuff.
Yeah, the most recent article, Google's bringing that back just fine.
Yeah, that's what that one's fine.
Yeah, so in this instance, again, it's interesting, but again, if someone's picking up on RSS, they could have better authority. Again, depending when you said you were sharing it other places, most certainly Facebook and places like that can eat your lunch. We've seen that happen too many times. So definitely on Facebook, you know what I mean. You want to do no more than a snippet. Don't be doing much else. Yeah, it depends where you were searching. Which one of these articles was it, anyways? Which article was it, Tim? Which article was this exactly?
There wasn't an exact one. He said, I think he just said his last. He said in the last 20 days I've published 10 plus articles. So.
Okay, well, let me go further down. Let's see, 19. Geez, more than 10, I'm thinking. It looks like there was 10 this week. Oh my goodness. All right. Yeah, another thing I do in these kind of situations is search a sentence exact match from the first paragraph, search a sentence from the last paragraph exact match. See where it's being scraped, especially the stuff at the bottom. Scrapers often just use the snippet of the first paragraph, so you want to also check the bottom paragraph as well to see what's going on. Is this the Magento themes? I don't know. Let's go with January 17th. 15 free Magento themes. Let's try that one.
I mean, I'm just looking at obviously your title on which one am I looking at? How e-commerce websites get ranked #1 on Google without getting penalized. Wow, Inbound's displaying your article twice. Clink, Growth Hackers.
Clink, yeah, that's what I'm saying, yeah.
Kinged.
Android.Canuck Echo.
Yeah, I mean, phew.
Yeah, for this one, I'm not even seeing it. Just the Magento themes for e-commerce. Like, literally, it's not even coming up, which is potentially a red flag. Probably not good. Let's try one from January 16th. I'm starting to think you might have some bigger issues.
Yeah, I mean, I've just done your next one, the Nova A600, the cheapest smartphone, blah, 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 launched in India. Well, it's in the Times of India, it's in the Economic Times, India Times. Yeah, I don't even think, is that...
Now, I see stuff like you, ethical.blogspot, tech updates, inbound.org. All are outranking them for this particular one I'm looking at, so methinks there could be some other issues.
Yeah. I think you need to
really be happening.
Yeah, I think you need to look at some other things, really.
Yeah, I get the feeling Google may not trust us. Again, where's this site? How well are they linking to the blog on the main site is another question. Meaning, are they passing all this link equity? Because the main core domain's got a ton of equity, for sure. Yeah, and they're getting social action on this too, aren't they? Yeah. I smell something wrong.
Yeah, there is something going on. Unfortunately, obviously I can't.
No, it would take a lot more work than we have time than we have right now to dig into. But I get the feeling that something may be going on, because interestingly enough, yeah, the newer articles are actually ranking well for their name, etc.
Yeah.
It's once these other places come in that like you look at yesterday's, Google's only finding their blog. You look at the older ones, you've got these inbounds and everything else that are showing up, which. Yeah, so the equity coming from this blog is not strong enough.
Yeah, after a couple of days, or let's say a couple of weeks, then Google just drops them right down. I mean, I'm looking at.
Well, I just did an exact match search for a sentence from the last paragraph of one of the articles I'm looking at, and techupdates.com is the only thing Google is showing. Okay, hold on. Repeat with omitted search results. Okay, hold on. Android, no, they don't even show up for it, so something is definitely happening here. Because again, if I'm finding exact match sentences from the bottom of his article, it means that someone's got, yeah, here we go. Techupdates.com has the entire article verbatim. So if they're, I'm guessing this isn't scraped, to be honest. I think that he's actually verbatim publishing this article on other domains, and they're more than likely stronger domains than his.
Yeah,
you can even get yourself into a Panda problem with this kind of approach, because you're going to have all kinds of thin content now, as far as Google thinks, because it's finding your content elsewhere on more trusted domains.
Yeah.
So it might in fact think that you're scraping.
Yeah, definitely.
So yeah, it could even be a Panda problem. It's not like they're going to notify you about it, and it does run once a month, so entirely possible.
Yeah.
Yeah. So yeah, I guess there's our answers. You probably have an issue in the way you're going about promoting yourself with these articles. Again, write a separate article for these other places. If you're going to verbatim put a whole article on techupdates.com, write a separate article for your blog and for this where you're promoting. Don't try and reuse that entire post over and over on other sites, especially ones that are got more equity than you do. So.
Yeah. If you're gonna scoop it, and if you're gonna all of these, I mean, don't put the whole article on there. Write another introduction for it. Don't just copy and paste. I mean, I've done one from I don't know when was this 12th of January. I just took a snippet from your professional developer for a startup. I've just taken a snippet, and we've got approximately 1,500 sites showing the whole paragraph. You can't just copy paste because some of these other sites have a lot more equity than you. They'll get that stuff indexed faster than you. You're going to have a load. Google's going to go, well, who published this first? Whose is it? Then the whole article is spun out there. On 1,500 different sites, and ultimately Google's going to say, right, with Panda, they're going to say, right, well, we're going to filter this. We're just going to work out everyone's got the same thing. Whose are we going to display? And we'll display it based upon the authority, different readership, content, traffic, and ultimately
which one they pick up first. If you put that article on your blog this morning, and then 2 hours from now you go and put it on this other site, but the other site's getting crawled once every 10 minutes and you're getting crawled once every 4 hours, Google's still going to find that first over there and think it's that person's, not yours.
Yeah, definitely. Mm-hmm. So don't copy and paste. If you're going to promote your article elsewhere, rewrite the first paragraph so it's slightly different, and then use that as your teaser, your lead into yours. But yeah, I think it's like David said, it's the way you're promoting it is verbatim, and it shouldn't be done.
Yeah, I just put the two links to one of them in the chat here to Tim, and as you'll see, it's a complete, the one on tech updates, which is the only one ranking for the exact match on the bottom of a paragraph. It's an exact copy of that article. And again, even the advice from Googlers, back to what I was saying about the RSS approach, because places that asked me back in my earlier blogging days, can we use your RSS and republish your articles? And I was like, I don't know. So I, went to Matt, talked to him, and, basically he said, well, if you could delay your RSS till we crawl it, ideally, but at very least make sure that you have a link somewhere in that article at the beginning or the end saying find this article over here, because obviously wherever you're sticking it, they're not going to put a canonical to your site on it, so you got to do something like that. But at the end of the day, I think this approach is just wrong. If you want to promote yourself, great, but write a separate article for that site.
Yeah, and that tech update, like you said, it's copy and paste. That's it. It's the whole thing.
Yeah, and obviously they've got the either crawled first or have more authority equity. So he's just beating himself up with this approach. Hey Rob, good to see you, man. All right, so I think we're done with that.
Yep. Next one, Jim.
Feel free to hit us back up in the community as far as post another question as far as what should you do now, and we'll be happy to come in and lay out a plan of attack.
Apparently Jim's taking a break at the moment, so go on to question number 15. It's a question from Roy ODK titled User Agent in Robots.txt. Well, here's a dumb SEO question. Which one of the two is the better user agent disallow option for several crawlers? You'll see the full question in the community. Option number 1, user agent :bot1 user agent .bot2 user agent :bot3 disallow : or 2, user agent :bot1 disallow : user agent :bot2 disallow : user agent :bot3 disallow :
I would say go with disallow all. No. This could just be a bunch of semantics because it's a directive, meaning that any bot that isn't going to respect your robots is still going to crawl it anyways. It's not going to actually stop them. It's not you want to stop something, write something in your HT access that when that bot shows up to redirect it somewhere, makemoneysonline.com comes to mind. By the way, don't type that in, anybody. You don't want to. But it's a directive. So again, if you're talking Google or you're talking Bing or somewhere that's going to actually follow that disallow, great. Then you can define that. But at the end of the day, if this is some bot that's crawling you that you're is killing bandwidth or something, but it's not a legit bot, disallow is not going to change anything. They're still going to crawl you. So it depends on what you're trying to block and why.
In the community, Federico Sasso has written an answer, and he states, well, number 1, so having the bots listed and then disallow : is a valid syntax according to the de facto standard. He wouldn't expect all bots to support it. So it probably makes sense to go for option 2. That is, provided the bots respect that. And that's, I think, your point, David.
Yeah, again, so option 2, sure, but to my mind, any legitimate bot, Bing, Google, etc., unless you actually have a very serious reason for doing it, I'm going to allow any legitimate bot to crawl a site at this point. Anything that's not legitimate, are they going to really follow it? Probably not. So.
Okay, shall we move on to the next one? Okay, the next question's from Kumar Neeraj Kayasta, and it's titled SEO-friendly page building strategy. And he states, a friend of mine has shared a strategy for building his blogs. He said that he daily adds a page to his blog, sometimes 2 or 3. But it is not actually a proper post, but an idea with 150 or 200 words. But he creates the URL, title, description thoughtfully. It is just an idea without proper research or rich content. Then he researches on a topic and keeps on adding content. He says he's never been disappointed. He opines that every link has a place in SERPs, and search bots index them time to time, maybe putting them on a 1000th position initially. As content is added and SEO'd, inverted commas, its position becomes better. So, creating the links daily with basic SEO factor is his strategy. What is your opinion? Is it good, or is it ultimately harmful for the website?
Well, it all depends. I mean, you know, the thing is, you're just creating thin pages. Whilst he does go back, and I can see his theory, whilst he does go back and he adds to those pages and he updates those pages and builds upon them. Let's assume before your site has built up kind of any equity authority. If you're going down this road, and let's say you've got to your end of your 30 days, and now you've got 30 thin pages, right? And you know, you don't have much equity and great equity, and you know, I mean, what point do you start then going back and filling those up? He hasn't kind of given a time scale on that. Ultimately, you're going to end up with a lot of thin pages, and if you have more thin pages, let's say you start out your site in this kind of manner, ultimately you're going to end up with a lot more thin pages than you've started to actually build upon and fill up. You're just asking for, you know, you know, potential problems there. And
it sounds to him like this is a, you know, a made for AdSense type of approach to, you know, making money on the internet. So how long that'll be.
Yeah, you know, the thing is if he says he, you know, on a daily basis he adds either 2 or 3. Now, what I would say is, if you, instead of adding those 2 or 3 200-300 word things, why don't you, you know, split that out, and over every three-day period you add one decent, you know, page of content. Really good. So instead of churning out 3 pieces of crap every day, really thin, why don't you every 3rd day put out one decent piece? And you know, that's what I say is a better approach to take for you, rather than go down the multiple thin pages and then eventually go back and add to them, and then go back and add to them. You know, that's the way I would just recommend to you. And I suppose at the end of the day, it's your own personal choice. But I wouldn't recommend to anyone that I knew, or someone, you know, starting out or whatever, to go down that road. So I wouldn't recommend it.
On the flip side, I guess, in a more legitimate sense, if you're building around various topics in categorizations, it's a good idea. I mean, Google does pay off in the end, but yeah, doing a made-for-AdSense approach to blogging, you know, not so much. You know, I think that model's dead, and it will be dead. And you know, what are you really ranking for? You know, starting around 1,000th or whatever you said, and it moves up slightly. We all know if you're not on page 1, you're really not going to get a lot of substantial traffic, anyways. And at the end of the day, if you're trying to blog, you know, you're building authority, you're trying to build a following, and you're trying to trip various entity signals with Google. You know what I mean? Tim Capper, SEO, he knows this and that, and it associates concepts of entities to Tim. So, you know, at the end of the day, if you're a blogger, that should be your goal anyways, not just making money off of AdSense by slapping crap up. It just puts you in the, like you're saying, Tim, it puts you in the realm of Panda at some point. So.
Are you back, Jim?
Yes, I am, Tim. I was just thinking of Tim Capper SEO. It's got a nice ring to it, hasn't it?
There we go.
That's how I find all my friends in Google. I put their name, comment SEO, and Google always gets it right. Okay. And thanks for looking after things, Mr. Taki. Niraj Kumar says, or has a question about an SEO-friendly page building strategy. A friend of mine has shared a strategy for building his blogs. Oh, you've done that one, have you?
Yeah, we just finished that one, Jim.
Oh, sorry, I got it wrong. Sorry, now I understand. Right. Well, look, we've finished our questions, and we now hit our news items. This was a post originally shared by online ownership. That rings a bell. And anyway, it was a page put out by Tim Capper, a checklist for when you start a local SEO campaign. Tim, I imagine you might have a comment on it.
No, Jim, this was just basically it's just becoming more and more thin. That in the forums, it's why is my local page not appearing in the knowledge panel for my for my business? And this is just a basic checklist that I run through, and that people can just run through now if they think, well, why, and it's all the normal kind of things, but there's so many things which people overlook, and it's just obviously business name needs to match your actual business addresses, looking for duplicate pages, duplicate local listings, and then ultimately building local citations and building up your search authority. But it's a basic checklist for people, because 9 times out of 10 in the forums, when someone says, why am I not appearing for my brand name or my business name, and you look at their local page, and their local page is called ABS Systems, and their website is called DNS Technology, and you think, well, why are you calling your local page that, and why is your actual business called that? It's just little things which people need to tie together. There's no one single trigger. You just need to obviously tick all the boxes, and then over time, building up your authority, you will obviously start appearing for the knowledge panel for your business name, which is great branding. I think everybody should undertake the exercise, or all small businesses, because it's really easy to do. You don't have to be a genius. It's really easy to do, and it's great branding for your actual name. When people search your name, it just looks good. It's great real estate, and it's a barring you don't have any complications or any duplicate listings and things like this, it is a relatively easy process just to work your way through.
Fantastic. Yeah, and you'll find it on onlineownership.com. Okay, our next item, we've covered that, and I've just wiped out the queue time for it. What a fool I am. Anyway, never mind. Next is question 19 on more and more schema.org markups being included in the knowledge panel. Last week we had social accounts. This week it is events, because most events use an online ticket service. This only affects the online ticket brokers. Anyone with a comment on this one?
What did Terry say? I'll go with him.
Yeah. Yeah, they're just ramping. They're really ramping up the stuff, and it's good to see. It's good to see. So this one was for ticket sales, I believe, appearing in your knowledge panel for business. So, for example, if you had an event going on, or if you're a movie theater, if you're a playhouse, I don't know, if you're a car show, whatever you call them, car racing track place, and you've got official tickets, anywhere that you have official tickets on sale, you can mark that up to actually appear in your business knowledge info panel. Which is great, more valuable real estate. If people know who you are, or they know your business, they search for your business, you've got your knowledge panel, they can either now come in both ways. They can come in from your site, or they can go straight to purchasing tickets right from the knowledge graph. Yeah, it's great. It's nice. Keep adding, Google.
Yeah, I think that the whole schema thing, it's always, I don't think my advice is varied a whole lot. It's going to depend on if the markets you're in warrant it. Again, events, menus, you go look at the list of what Google actually, is showing. Secondly, are you redesigning a site, major redevelopment? Are you launching a new site? I think, you got to put it in there. Why not? Let's go for it. Now, should you be, tearing a site down and rebuilding it with schema just for this? No, I'm not so much. I give that advice. I think at the end of the day, Google's going to find ways around a lot of all of this anyways, as far as how they're, dissecting rich information and tablature data and stuff of that nature. I think the adoption for schema has been fairly low, so I think to a degree they're probably working on ways around it. But
oh yeah, for sure. I mean, I looked at, there was a question the other day, someone was going on about, I think he had a movie theatre, and he was saying, and he pointed out some of the, other movie theatres, how they had all these show times and all that. And my initial thing was, right, we've got to mark up the movie, the dates it's available, the run times, start times, price. But funnily enough, when I went and looked at quite a few big movie theatres, and I was looking in the UK, they haven't marked up. So Google is actually taking where you're not marking up, they are looking at it, and as long as it's in a structured format that they can read, so the name, PG rating, times, ticket prices, things like that, as long as it's on the page, if you're not going to mark it up and it's in a, it's in a market that Google wants to display it, they will still extract it anyway.
Yeah, I agree. We've seen the very same thing a lot of times, is that Google is finding ways to find this data and present it without the schema. So,
could it also be that they use the Webmaster Tools schema markup tool?
Possible, but in a lot of cases they're just not. And Google, again, because of low adoption over the last 4 years since they've been pushing it, I think because of that low adoption that they're finding ways to get this rich data presented without the schema. So.
Okay. They've just brought out this new markup, the data helper structured markup in the rich snippet testing tool. Has anyone else used that? Because I was having a play around with it last night, and it was bringing up some errors like left, right, and center. I don't know if it's just me. Has anyone used it?
Not I, sir. Not I.
It seems to be slightly stricter than the rich snippets.
You take the markup that it produces in the help, and then you go back to the rich snippet testing tool, chuck it in there, and the errors are just freaking everywhere.
Is it the missing fields, or is it the unexpected?
Missing fields, unexpected. So I was just like, well, hang on, you're giving me this HTML. I'm then taking your HTML, I'm testing it, and I'm just getting errors.
Yeah, I mean, if you put the same thing in rich snippets testing tool, then they'll probably be all okay. So I think the new structured data testing tool, which only really looks at schema, it doesn't pick up on Open Graph and things like that. That seems to be stricter than the rich snippets testing tool.
Yeah, it is. It's very strict, yeah.
So if you have a person type, then you have to have an address or phone number or something like that. You can just have the name. Same, I think, for organization and things like that.
Yeah, I tried to mock up as an event venue, and this thing was chucking. It was throwing. It threw its dummy right out back. Was slapped me in the face, man. It didn't want to know.
But I think Google will still extract information.
Yeah.
Even if even if the structured data testing tool has a fit. I mean, I think Google will be able to extract and probably will show that in the knowledge graph.
Cool.
Okay. We covered this one? Recording that one as a yes. And next we have Edwin Yonk saying, did they hear me last week complaining about not supporting Jason LD? Actually, you were just talking about the new structured data testing tool, Tim. I should have combined them. Anybody read PFR's article?
Not me.
Okay, going on to the next.
I don't run into a lot of
go ahead.
so I think so.
Okay.
Oh, good.
All right. What's wrong, David?
Oh no, just we kind of even covered this next one. Anyways, go ahead first, then we'll go.
Yeah, we definitely did cover it, didn't we? But I think it might be our last question. Is it, Masataki?
Well, I think what happened here was John Mueller, you know what I mean? And it's funny because this is actually about maybe 10 days old. And in the last Google Webmaster Hangout, I guess last Thursday maybe, whenever, you know, I was listening to that on the weekend while I was doing some work, and someone actually brought it up again, and he kind of stepped back from that after all the controversy. And I think this is an instance, again, of trying to black and white things as opposed to really trying to, you know, what he's saying is, again, if you've got a small link profile of, you know, let's say, you know, 400, 500 links, and, you know, maybe Penguin or something hits you thinking that, you know, because let's say a quarter of them are bad, so maybe, you know what I mean, 150, whatever. If you attract 200 good links, yeah, that can push that threshold, you know. But again, if it's a larger one, you know, maybe 100,000 links and there's 10 or 15,000 bad links, you know, the number of good links you would have to attract to start to move that needle is going to be exponentially different. So it's a case-by-case basis. So yeah, of course, you know, you know, positive direction of links is going to potentially help, but it depends on the situation. You know, right? Yeah. So again, is that recovery, Tim? No, that's just doing more solid work in a positive direction, and that's going to pay for you. Is that solving the original problem you had if you're not disavowing getting links removed? No, it's not. So, you know, throwing 10 good links at a link profile that's got 500 bad ones probably isn't going to have much of an effect. But if you've got 20 bad ones and you throw 100 good links at it, sure. You know, is what I think John Mueller is trying to say, that yeah, theoretically, you know, good links can cancel out bad ones, but you got to go on a situational, case-by-case basis. Yeah. So I just think it was too many people. Again, they just read, you know, like when Matt cuts, you just you know, blow wind for people. The entire industry would go mental.
And the thing is, let's face it, if somebody's in that situation where they've got a penalty, I mean, you've got a serious amount of bad over, you know, any good links that you have. So why wouldn't you take care of those bad ones? Because if you just chose to ignore them and think, right, I'm just going to build good ones, I mean, you're going to be building or working on attracting a hell of a lot more good to override anything, any negative, you know, that you've built up. Why wouldn't you take care of some of those? You know, you're halving the work that you kind of need to do to try and make some form of recovery. It just, yeah, it's not the easy option. Do you know what I mean? People think, oh right, I don't have to worry about those bad ones. I'll just go and get some new ones. Oy, oy, oy.
Yeah, and again, you know, I would hear John say something like that, and they don't use their critical mind. You know what I mean? They don't start thinking, okay, this is something he's saying, but does this, you know, apply to everything or what's involved? Again, it depends on the thresholds and how many bad links you've got. You know, it's just not a feasible idea. And even on top of that, Tim, if you attract some good links and get rid of the crappy ones and disavow what you can't, you're going to get twice the bonus effect of recovery, or whatever you want to call it. So, you know, I don't think people should take what John Mueller said and just run with it. It's like, no, probably not the right idea.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, you know, John's. You've got to understand that John's in such a position that, you know, he's never going to give away any kind of secret sauce, but he will try and always be as honest as he possibly can with you. The point is for you is to look at what he says and actually realize, you know, just look at it and say, well, is that feasible for me? And, you know, you need to just take a breather rather than going, whoa, I just go build some more good links. It's like, well,
yeah, again, I think the concept and advice is sound because, you know, at some point it will play out. But to just take that at, you know, bare-face value and run with it and think, well, no, I don't have to worry about the crappy links is probably no, you don't want to do that. So,
I think he also said that building links could well work the other way around, because if you're
sure, yeah, if you're throwing more crap at the wall, it could hurt you even more.
So, just listen to the man.
Well, again, like Jim was intimating, it's site by site, market by market, query space by query space dependent. You can't just take a comment from a Googler that's a generalization and then apply it to your situation. You know, don't think so.
Okay.
And I think Tim's frozen all time.
He is. We've had a few difficulties tonight, Edwin. I think it's because I said Larry Page was a liar last week. Here's a subject we've never discussed before, correlation and causation. This was an article. Who posted this? Was it Eric Eng or Rand Fishkin?
Well, the original article was a Rand Fishkin article. The rebuttal was something different. Again, like, you know, I've been joking about this week is that, you know, absolutely every page I see ranking at the top of Google has the word and the in the article. So I tell my clients to spam the hell out of those two words because apparently there's correlation. Yeah. But the whole correlation causation thing has been going on for years. You know, again, you can try and do that, and even Moz had their LDA tool at one point, which they threw in the crapper, which is supposed to look at semantic concepts that are in top ranking pages, and if they have certain phrases and terms and concepts in them that correlates to top rankings. Well, it might and it might not. You know, you can't just, correlations don't always tell you the whole story. We can see that if we look at search metrics list of ranking factors, you know, where they have actually, you know, keywords in the title is a lower ranking factor than keywords in your meta description, apparently. Even though Google consistently keeps telling us they don't use meta description for ranking, search metrics figures there's a correlation here, so it's now a ranking factor. It's these kind of correlation studies that, you know, just don't make sense. And sure, there might be correlation, but is that causation? Is that what's actually happening in Google? I don't think so. So, you know, and same with them. You know, G+ things were like at the top of search metrics ranking factor list, which again Google says it's not using directly as a ranking factor. So is correlation always going to give you the best information? No. And my issue with most of these is that they state them as ranking factors as opposed to correlations. So, you know, if someone publishes an article saying that, you know, these factors correlate well with Google rankings, I have no problem because at least someone with half a brain can know that this is a correlation. It's not necessarily causation. And it's when people go out, like, you know, search metrics and other people saying that these are Google ranking factors, it's when you start to get worried, because going back almost full circle to the whole Whiteboard Friday thing, people are going to take that, you know, as gospel, because so many people don't want to test. They just want to read stuff and go, okay, this is how I'm going to do my SEO. So I think there's a lot of danger in any kind of correlation study being used as a definitive piece towards what is happening with Google. So.
Yeah. Any other comments, guys, before we close? At a green room? All right. Well, that's it for tonight. It was a a bit shaky. We had a few technical issues, but we got through it, and thank you all so much for your contribution, especially David Harry, who's come in from the SEO Training Dojo. If you're still watching us, we'd like you to join us in the green room. We'll be going off the air in a moment. But we thank you for your participation. Your interest in us makes what we do worthwhile. And we'll be back the same time next week to do it again.